Oh, hello. Welcome to Dice Punks, a tabletop role-playing podcast where we focus on playing full campaigns in less well-known systems. This week, though, we're using a one-shot to delve into the contemplative, GM-less game Exiles by Ben Klug. Hello, and welcome. I'm Adam, a forlorn wanderer from a faraway and forgotten fen. And joining me are...
I'm Drew. I'll be playing a princess in exile, as though that needs to be said.
I'm Dez. I am a tired paladin, clad all over in armor.
And I'm Nick. My bones ache.
Today, then, his team needs a nap.
Marvelous. Draw close to the fitful glow of this here fragile fire, drifter, and hear how this shall come to pass. By which I mean I should explain what we're about to get into. So we're going to be playing Exiles, which is this GM-less system, very brief rules by Ben Klug. It's based around sort of weary wanderers in a darkened land coming together around a fire and sharing tales of the things they've found and helping each other kind of remember what each of those items actually is and means. So a lot of what we're going to get into is going to come through play and through the conversation. And as you can see, we're all sort of going out on a little bit of a limb and doing some character voices here. Apologies if mine is inconsistent, but practice makes perfect and all that. So this is a game where we take it by turns to introduce an item, and then people other than the one who introduced it describe its past. And once it's sort of fully described, that's when the holder of the item can describe how they came to have it. So each character is going to consist of a name and a land of their origin. They're going to have completed the statement, I cannot return to the land of my origin because, the statement, I make my way in this darkened land by, and the statement, at the fire you will soon notice. Right, so they're going to complete each of those, and then each character is going to have some kind of marker with a face up and a face down. For instance, I've got an iron coin with a sugar skull and the words memento vivere on one side, and a skull and crossbones and the words memento mori on the other.
Delightful.
So when it's memento vivere, then I will still be able to sort of take an action to describe something about one of these items, and then I will flip my coin over to indicate that I must now wait to contribute again until we have our sort of moment of staring into the bonfire between us, and then the conversation can restart on a different topic. What do each of our other players have as their markers?
I'm using a card from a deck of surreal cards that I kickstarted a while back called Dream Punk. This one shows an appropriately bucket-helmed soldier, adventurer, knight, not sure, before a town that looks to be collapsing in on itself, and in the distance is a lighthouse, a tower, something of a beacon, pouring light down into the otherwise darkened world. So yeah, if I can do something, that's what I'll see, and otherwise I'll just see the word Dream Punk.
Mine is a well-loved to the point of nigh indiscernibility, slightly bent, well, creased, not bent, tarot card of the Hermit from the Night Vale Tarot deck.
Marvelous.
Dope. To coin a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
And I also bear a tarot card, mine the Hanged Man. A youth bound in all limbs and hanging by one of his ankles, his appearance serene, despite his troubled circumstances. It represents sacrifice and perspective as well as uncertainty.
Nice.
Those are some good vibes. And that is primarily what this is going to be a game of, is vibes. It's going to be a little quieter, a little more contemplative, a little more freeform than a lot of our one-shots have been, though they've had their moments, certainly. There is a section from the brief rules here that I'm just going to read, not because you shouldn't go check out this game if it appeals to you. I won't be reading the whole text here, but this particular section on playing the game is more concise and clear than I could make it in summary. So, for any detail, players can roll on the tables in these rules and use them to prompt ideas or to sort of wholly construct an item. It can be a coin flip to make you figure out what you wanted all along, or you can, follow as many of the details as possible. This means that the only time we'll be rolling dice is when people are stumped or improvising or looking for inspiration. That may be frequently, it may be not frequently. We will see. This is largely a game of monologues. So there's, going to be conversation kind of around and in between, probably at the beginning, as well as moving from one item to another within a round. But, not going to be a whole lot of back and forth. No real rushing, no interrupting. This is a long, slow night in a darkened land. Speak softly, and I will try to edit it such that it is still audible. The exiles should never lie to each other. What would be the point? Details introduced are always true. If there are contradictions between these details, well, the darkened land is a very strange place. If an exile is instructed to flip their card or marker face down in order to do something, they must have a face-up card to flip. Otherwise, they cannot begin this act. Exiles may converse normally, but only in such a way as to keep the order of the game. Such conversation may be about the exiles themselves, but not detail such histories as their possessions tell. React to the stories told naturally, but use the order of the game to intervene in them. Keep in mind the reasons for your exile. So I'm going to summarize how this is going to go. That was the portion from the rules, but each item has a description given by the item's holder when they introduce it for a discussion. And then it has its origin. How did it come to be? Where is it from? What is that place like? A distant history, a recent history, and then the holder will be able to give, when those other things have been filled in to the extent necessary, the item's provenance. How did the holder come by it? Why were they there? Did they find it in a treasure chest? Did they take it from a foe, buy it from a mysterious merchant with a funny accent? Things like that. Only the initial description and the provenance are provided by the holder. Everything else is provided in turns by the other exiles. And they don't all have to be given, and they don't all have to be given in any particular order. People can go from one thing to another kind of as they are moved to. If an item, of course, was, say, recently created, it won't have a distant history. So not everything has exactly the same ones. But when everybody's marker has been flipped down, we have a moment of silence. We sit quietly, contemplate the flame, and then flip everything face up, and conversation continues, but on a new topic. The previous item can't be returned to until a new turn. And then at the end, we decide individually whether our characters, our exiles, are staying at the fire or venturing back into the darkened land, and that winds the session to a close. So, should be chill, vibes-based. I'm looking forward to hearing, sort of the creativity and storytelling that everybody brings to the table. Do we have any questions from our players about what we're going to be doing or how?
I know that we can only contribute to the sort of canon truths of an object if we have the card face up, but is it bad form to interject sort of out of turn? Little things.
I'm going to say in between. if somebody has like flipped their marker and is giving the distant history of an item, interjections there should, I think, be kept to what we might call like practical considerations. You can't hear them. You couldn't understand a word, that kind of thing. In between, when they trail off with, I forget the rest or similar, then there can be, follow-up questions, conversation that gets us from that to the next thing. Kind of in character, that's fine. But you wouldn't want to then touch on one of the other areas of the description without making it your turn, so to speak. And you wouldn't want to stall the movement onto the next thing either. And I guess the other thing that I would say is, whatever somebody, and I think this is heavily implied by what I've said so far, I'm not too worried that my players would make this mistake, but whatever somebody has said in their sort of nominated turn, they start describing the recent history of an item, flipping their marker over, is canon. Like that's the answer on that item. Like the rules said, contradictions just go unresolved. There can be different stories or takes, and that's fine. But like, I think in the spirit of the thing, and as Des said, of course, this would be the way it went, but we'd want to treat what, the people who have taken their turn to contribute have said about the item in question as, the closest to truth that we're likely to get, and
Oh, absolutely. No, that's super helpful. And when I asked about interjections, the ones I was considering were not,
right. Yeah.
I think that it's
wrong.
A good question, because
that item isn't like that.
Might be times where I'm struggling with a monologue and running out of ideas, but like I'm 3 sentences in and would like to complete this particular section and would welcome an occasional kind of.
That was the thing. Yeah. Obviously you don't, interrupt. You don't interrupt as distinct from interjecting, right. But is supporting somebody's story, even if the ball is still in their court and even if you don't have a turn, kosher, I think was kind of the nature of the question.
I think that, yes, to an extent. I think the game is going to go too slowly if we make a habit of it, but to Nick's point, if he trails off but hasn't said, I forget the rest, to signal, that's like the whole piece he was going to say, then you could prompt, that would be fine. I would say in that situation, leave a little space, right?
Totally.
There should be some silence before anybody jumps in, both for lag reasons and for tone reasons.
Got it. Yeah. Generous, comradely yes-anding in a pinch. Okay. But it's a game where conversation is mechanical. So respect that, and B, let it breathe. Don't assume that every silence needs to be filled, because eerie silence is part of the aesthetic.
And also, the peanut gallery should shut the hell up.
Otherwise, we'll be bursting into laughter at the wrong prompts.
One may burst into laughter, but it must be menacing laughter, I think, is the rule.
Or despairing laughter.
He died despairing in agony.
Laughter, I think, is also...
I was going to say, it needs to be the kind of laugh that makes you go, wait, what are they laughing at?
Right, exactly. That's a good rule. I noticed that if we are in a pinch and need to randomize something, a D6 and a D10 are necessary for tables.
That's correct.
I'm saying that for the listener as well as for me, and I'm also going to go grab one of each real quick.
All right. It is a relatively quieter, more contemplative game. Stretches of silence are, for once, going to be fine. I won't do too much editing of dead air. I will say, as a reminder to me, I've already done this a few times this episode. Because silence is kosher, I'm going to do my best not to draw out my so and the things that I usually do to kind of fill time without there actually being dead air that I end up usually editing out anyway. So just did it again.
I'll try.
It's a public speaking habit, but
Mhm.
we are very much privately speaking in a world where, well, who knows?
Right.
It's
In a
just us,
world.
as far as we know. In a world.
Yeah. Hopefully we get into the headspace here without too much trouble. Anything else before we get into it?
Don't think so. I'm ready to
Right,
fail or
so-
succeed.
Come
What-
on. And.
Fail and succeed. Yes.
So what I'm going to do here is on our Zencaster recording, at least, I'm going to press this campfire 1 button and give us a little bit of lead in of campfire sound. And then I will give a brief description of a vague
Yet menacing.
campfire space. Yeah. A vague campfire space. And, we'll kind of take it from there. I'm going to say that part of my intro narration here is going to be all of us kind of having arrived and settling in so that our conversation begins after a short interval in which everybody has sort of drifted in a dark room style. There is a partially ruined building of wood and stone from which dim and flickering firelight leaks through door, windows, roof, gaps in stone, and yet it is enough shelter to have attracted wanderers. The light outside is neither day nor night. It is darkened. And so those around the fire, as they come in one by one, the space of what could pass for an evening, were it ever to end, they only become visible as they enter the circle of firelight. Those who are already present nod. Everyone, as they come in, settles, takes off packs, sits on rocks, roots, planks, the ground. Perhaps removes a weapon or a piece of armor, doffs a helmet. And by the time there are 4 such exiles settled, and the evenings, if that's what it is, wind has died down appreciably, their eyes have adjusted to the glow of the fire. There are 4 of them, strangers to one another, who yet begin to strike up a conversation. One such exile seems young, seems small, carries not so much weapons for the most part as tools, a battered machete, a notched filleting knife, and a leather sheath. Her pack trails a surprisingly pristine tale of some furry creature unfamiliar to the others. She wears salt and mud-caked hunting leathers reinforced with something that isn't leather, and holds in her hands, between her knees where her elbows rest on them, a jar of thick, smoky glass, stoppered with wood and pitch, containing a damp clump of ground moss, which she regards between her and the fire, before speaking. Well, you're a varied lot, aren't you? Suppose we all are here. From where do you hail? Myself, Talada. The Breathing Glades. A long way from home.
We have something in common right away. For I hail from Deep Shore Strand, another place that, if the rumors are true, no longer exists.
My condolences.
And mine. The woman who speaks is not so much old as eternally middle-aged. She looks as though she was middle-aged by about the age of 3. Her bearing is noble and tragic. Her eyes are sharp. Sheer perseverance you think you see in them. It's a surprisingly terrible thing.
The Silvered Enclave. That city whose laws are just by their own estimation.
All justice is a question of estimation, is it not?
Certainly one of judgment. The hulking figure in armor that verges on architecture has a frame that extends beyond the firelight. He carries a sword, long, thin, of metallic black metal. Redundant, but you get the idea. And there appears to be some sort of internal channel that perhaps holds liquid. As well, a curved blade and a book bound in drake scales, perhaps? And a bottle that, depending on the angle from which it's viewed, is filled with smoke, or lightning, or blood.
I should note, as we've noted, that some metal is more metallic than other metal. The woman who'd spoken previously has her cuirass at her side. She's not wearing it. She doesn't seem especially concerned at the moment, but that and her weapon lay at her feet.
And I am Gent of Balaam. A man leans forward into the firelight from the place that he sits. And his face, sea of lines, the wrinkles have wrinkles, and he wears long, long years of care and regret on his face and in his one undamaged eye as it gazes into the firelight. A spear sits across his lap, and ghastly pauldrons adorn his shoulders, mismatched from his other worn, plain leathers.
Quite the group we are.
Aren't all such... No. Forgive me, I'm confused again. Have we... We have not met before. No, of course not.
Oh, we have. Briefly. Some years ago. You looked about the same.
Oh, yes, I suppose that I would have. Nothing grows in the glades anymore. I don't think. Not even me. What has brought you to such forlorn place as the Darkened Lands?
I know of nowhere else to go.
What is there to do in exile but wander?
My home is closed to me, evermore. I had a duty there, a sacred duty that I fled. Among my people, it is a custom for someone in the flower of their youth to memorize the prayers of those in the town, and to be sacrificed to bring those prayers to the gods. The prayers now will go unanswered, for I fled that duty into the unknown.
Did you memorize the prayers?
Of course.
Then they may be delayed. Unless, of course, you have found immortality.
I think that the gods would not hear the words of one such as I who has fled his sacred duty. But perhaps you're right.
In my experience, the gods have a terrible habit of hearing and of answering.
It has been some time since I found myself in as wise and lively a company as this. Perhaps it can't hurt to ask. I reach down to my belt and sort of pulling some of my other more mundane possessions to the side, reveal hanging from it a dull metallic mask. Untethering it, I hold it up into the firelight, and it seems as though it must be silvery, but currently it's reflecting the firelight, so it's ruddy. It's shaped like it should cover the whole face, but it's too small for all but a child's. Its expression is either one of excitement or of agony, but the detail is insufficient to be sure. Corrosion stains the cheeks of the mask beneath the spaces where the wearer's eyes might peer out. It's a mottled black patina, too close and irregular to suggest dripping liquid, so it doesn't resemble tears or blood, but just discoloration. Perhaps one of you can supply some information. I feel as though I should recognize this. Found it some time back, but, well, Tyler's memory isn't what it was.
If I'm not mistaken, I very well may be, but that is the mask of the last child king of Corianth. It was made always to look excited, but never specific. That sort of detail verged awfully close to blasphemy in that place and in that time. I can't tell you much about the disfigurement to the mask, but it was a ceremonial requirement that it be worn any time the child was visible to his subjects. I forget the rest.
I can say something of the disfigurement. For once I plundered the castle and found at its heart a child in that mask. And with the child there was a man, and the man fought when the child commanded. And when I killed the man, the child wept. And the mask changed, and the child faded away like mist. I forget the rest.
didn't know that about the history of that particular mask, but I could swear on my travels I saw it being worn by a knight on the ramparts of a great castle. His sword drawn against the setting sun. I'm curious, though, whether it ended up in your hands through conquest or through some other means. Did you get it from this knight, or did he fall against whatever enemy he assailed at the time?
Oh, I saw evidence of the knight, I did, but didn't meet him exactly. You see, I think I came to the same rampart later. There was some sort of foul bird, more fur than feathers, but shaped like one. It took me for a meal, and, well, I barely managed to do it in with my fillet knife while it tried to take me, I think, to its young. Found the mask and some ruined armor lining its nest. Not even the bones were left. It was the only thing that caught my interest, and I thought, no, I don't remember why I took it with me. I just thought I should. But that's all I have to tell of it, really. Thank you. I wonder how it is worn. I kind of hold it in the firelight a little, the jar with the moss in it set between my feet, and gaze at it. I believe that was everybody's marker.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just double checking.
We are an ideal party size for complete descriptions in a single pass.
Indeed we are.
It's for the best that you took it, and that I did not. I could not have told you why I did not, but it was right.
I nod silently and behold the flames.
I said I have a weapon. I didn't say what it is, and that's because I don't know. So I'm going to consult the oracle.
Fully, I'm curious to see how it goes.
It's claws. And what is peculiar about these claws is that they are made of polished silver with delicate scroll work, and they crackle with, well, someone else already crackled with sparks of lightning, didn't they? So rather, they perpetually drip a liquid you can't identify.
Classic.
Seems healthy.
The liquid is iridescent. The color seems to change as the firelight catches it differently.
Not toxic at all.
Wouldn't worry. I also wouldn't get too close, though. After all, what good is worrying going to do?
Right.
Little once you've reached out and touched them.
I leave those where they lie, but I do pick up my armor and begin to fuss over it and polish it. It's a breastplate and a backplate that look as though they were sundered apart with great difficulty when they were one thing, whatever they once were, and also like they must be fastened together with great skill to function as armor. Both of these things are true, by the way. Both pieces are blue-green, streaked iridescent orange. It looks like the shells of the beasts of the deep floor, if you've ever heard of such things, though you've probably never seen them or we wouldn't be having this conversation. I gaze at it and mumble, "The cuirass of the Hard-Shell King."
The Hard-Shell King, you say? I killed him some decades past. I will heft my sword, and you will note that it rises and falls at very different speeds and with different momentum to it. It was a long, hard-fought battle, but eventually the claws slowed and I had time to fully raise my blade and let it fall. And that is how it came to be sundered. I did not know that it had been made into such fine armor in the interim.
I've seen that armor before. It was back in the Breathing Glades. A mercenary came wearing it, looking to fight for us, but we had no enemies. He took it upon himself to challenge the local wildlife. We didn't approve and made ready to ambush him, but then weren't able to find him. Turns out he had fallen afoul of some of the fauna that he wished to combat. Well, that's the conclusion we came to, though I don't remember who I was with. I forget the rest.
It seems magnificent to me that you now bear such armor. For I once, in my travels, came up against Jormungandr, the great dragon of the north. I didn't face him myself, of course, but I saw the one that did. And the armor withstood the flame of that great dragon. I didn't see how the rest of the fight turned out. I fled, and I lived, for what that's worth. I don't know the rest.
How came you by it?
It was a gift from my father. How he came by it? Well, it depends on the day you asked, but I suppose the version I believe is that he simply found it in ash. Someone had fought a great dragon, it seems, and it had been only singed, though the man wearing it had been baked within it. And my father took it down to the deep shore. Ah, you don't know the deep shore. So, below the world, and below the world, there is a great tree. At the roots of this tree there is a beach, and beyond the beach is an ocean, and below the ocean a palace. Only by passing through this palace may you reach the inverted hall, which lies below, but also above all. Rise and sink from there, and one will surface on the colorless beaches of Deep Shore Strand. This is the place of my father's abode. This is where the armor made its home. This was to be my kingdom. Or so it was before the deep shore began to rise. The palace now lies in ruin. The ghost waters lap at the roots of the worlds we know. This cannot be stopped. It's my father's fault. And mine. I suppose that's all I have to say about the armor.
Well, it is magnificent at any rate.
I'm amazed to know that the dragon story is true.
For what it's worth, the Hardshell King was in fact at the roots of that tree. I've not been to your homeland then, but I've apparently been most of the way.
Far closer than most. And I should say I'm more amazed to meet the man who killed the Hardshell King. I thought perhaps he, you, all of it, was a myth.
With enough time and not enough memory, all things may become so.
Memory is in short supply, it's true.
It seems as though, despite appearances of youth and vigor or middle-agedness in some cases, there is a great deal of wisdom around this campfire, a deep lore of the world, and those that have seen as much and more than I have. Which makes me curious whether any of you know the provenance of these pauldrons that I now bear. As you can see, there's the head of a woman staked to the left pauldron, and the head of a man to the right, their eyes sewn shut in death. A grisly prize, yes, but they remain silent while I'm awake, but just as I drift off to sleep, they whisper. I don't know what. And that's all I know about that item.
I knew them. I think I knew them. The man and the woman. They look familiar anyway. And I look at them, I smell stew. And I see hammocks. Not at home. No, it was elsewhere. A long time ago. But I do remember that the next time I came back to that place, it was gone. Cold ash was all that remained. I had assumed they had all died, but... well, if I ever knew it, I forget the rest.
In the Silvered Enclave, the traditional punishment for assorted crimes of moral turpitude, such as it might be. When everything is obscenity, anything can be so punished. Was the separation of head from shoulders, and the sewing shut of mouth and eyes. Ears were left open, of course. So that may be where Let me have a look at these, at the metal of this. Oh, indeed. It appears that the heads were affixed to the shoulders, such as it were, in the neighboring principality, where it is said that the dead offer useful advice in combat. So I think that is how these who went astray in my once homeland found themselves able to be atop your shoulders. I do not know the rest.
I think perhaps I might. For as you have not been to my homeland, I have not been to yours, but I have met one of your order, much less pleasant than you. More serious, perhaps. And he told me that if I defied him and laid claim to a treasure to which we both wished to lay claim, times being difficult, that he would put a curse on me, that I would hear the whispers of those whose mouths in the waking world were sewn shut upon sleeping. You say that you hear whispers at the moment you sleep. I hear them all night. I think perhaps I am dreaming your dreams, and I think perhaps that both of our dreams are now theirs. I think perhaps this curse of the Silver Dawnclave is spreading. We should pay attention as we sleep tonight. I don't know anything else. I forget the rest, if I ever knew it.
I think all of you gathered round the fire, for it lightened me to that which I now bear, not unlike a curse. For the one who gave it to me freely as we shared a fire not unlike this one seemed suspiciously eager to be rid of it. Did I see regret in his eyes, or shame at the gifting? I don't know. It's one of those things that delays sleep almost as much as the whispers, the fear of them and what they may or may not be sharing as I dream. I think that's all that I'm likely to know about that for the time being, until sleep claims us both.
Perhaps cursed I hear what they cannot say, and you, in possession of the objects, you hear the truth, which is that they say nothing.
Regardless, a pox on those who would violate hospitality to be rid of their own problems.
And a pox on those who would deprive the world of such rich fish stew.
I had been raising a flask, and I now pointed at you more enthusiastically and take a deep dram. So yeah, I'm taking a dram from my flask, which, consulting the oracles briefly, is made of light or shadow, made material, and it's in the shape of it's overstated and overbearing, noble but excessive. So it's extremely let's say Art Deco, although that's, something that probably doesn't exist per se in this world. Then again, time is convoluted in the Darkened Lands. It's got a similar filigree to my claws. I put it down next to the claws, then move them slightly away so the liquid that the claws drip doesn't make contact with the drinking flask.
Point of order question.
Mm-hmm.
Does the liquid that the claws drip, say, sizzle on the ground? Or does it burn it away or melt it in the fashion of acid?
The grass and clover and other plants on the ground seem to move away from it in a way you didn't think plants could.
Hasty little antlets.
You're not sure what would happen if it were to touch them, and they aim not to let you find out.
This is a kindness upon all involved.
After I toast and after I set it down, I say, but I've been terribly rude. Even princess of Deep Shore Strand, such as it is. And I don't believe I know your name. I look over to our paladin.
Cormar,
and if you don't,
once
Cormar,
of the Silver Enclave.
A pleasure. Not so much the Silver Enclave part, but again, you seem the exception that proves the rule.
There's reason I am no longer among the Order.
I could not help but notice the handsome book in your possession. It's bound with scale of a kind I do not recognize. It seems smoking, if I look closely, and it seems as though almost I ought not to look too closely.
It answers questions very specifically to the place and time and situation in which those questions are asked. The writing is not so much in ink as in smoke that rearranges itself.
Really? I do not know how long this book has been in your possession, but I once met a wise old woman who claimed to have this power, who claimed to be able to ask a question and see it written in smoke, and I thought she was speaking metaphorically, but I suppose after all these years I should know better. Metaphor is a slippery thing, after all. And she told me that the book had predicted the hour of my death. To the hour, mind you. I suppose I have, well, time has gotten strange. If time were normal, I suppose I would already be dead, based on her prediction. But perhaps she did not have this power. Perhaps she had your book. Times were tough, and I believe someone in the town said that she had traded it to a wandering merchant. I don't know the rest.
You know, I think I once traveled to an area where I did not encounter the book per se, but I saw the technique of answers in smoke. There were some sorts of practitioners, I don't remember what they were called, who could draw upon a pipe with shreds of paper with a question asked on it, tamped in. And when they would exhale, they would blow the smoke out, and it would form words in the air that I assume answered the question. I didn't read the language, couldn't tell. I wonder if someone didn't figure out how to commit the ability to paper, or Drake scale, or whichever component of the book operates. It seems too much a coincidence, but I know no more.
It seems like just yesterday that I met a traveling skald who told me a tale of a book such as yours, and that the bearer of this book, upon consulting it in times of need, once consulted the book, and the book said that in order to survive, the bearer must give it up. I don't know whether he did, or she did, or they did. But it's in your possession now. Makes me curious how you came upon it.
The book was indeed given up by its last possessor, and I came to bear it by plucking it from the ashes of the remains of the library that we had been sent to burn for iniquitous contents. I opened the book and asked whether it was right or even righteous to have done as we did. And that was the start of my departure.
Because you're the first one in an age to use it properly. All of this using it to deceive, this buying and selling is not consulting in times of need and then perhaps eventually giving up. But you, it set you on a path.
Certainly that. And now I carry my home upon my back. And arms. And so on.
I pat my armor when you say carry my home upon my back.
May also be worth noting that at no point have I moved to take off any part of the armor or raise a visor or anything.
It was implied, but I appreciate it being like clarified and confirmed. I raised the flask again as though in toast. I don't seem terribly concerned that no one else has mentioned having anything to toast with.
I will hesitantly raise a jar. You're just at an angle where it looks a bit like lightning and a bit like blood within it. I do not drink from it.
That's a fascinating dram you have. Might you share it?
This is not for drinking unless one is also dying.
Maybe later then.
Ideally not, but it does good to be prepared.
Someone once said to me that the only thing scarier than dying is not dying. But then again, she sold a book that was meant to be given away. Who knows what became of her?
And she was wrong. Being without time. Well, shall I say I would rather age and not die than be as I am. Or die. Who's dying? Sorry. I get lost.
No one
Well-
here currently. other than all of us who have time to our call.
Also, possibly the world.
My world has died long since.
There. I don't mean to compare tragedies, of course, but that might be better than knowing your world is going to overtake this one.
You shrug one shoulder and stare into the fire.
I give the universal look of that was probably not the right thing to say, and don't say anything else.
Unless anyone has an objection after an interval, and in case you didn't return your markers to face up when I played the campfire sound a little while back, I reach behind me outside the circle of firelight and pull into it, setting it on the ground in front of me on one end to stand in front of me, a longbow. It's taller than I am sitting down, as tall as me standing up. And I gesture to it. First off, without me even saying anything, you can see that it is not made from normal bow materials. It's carved from jade and glares ominously in the firelight. The grip, where the bows meet, it's polished smooth down to that point, but pointing at the grip hand on either side are carved rows of needle-like polished teeth, just hewn from the jade, so that if you don't grip it precisely correctly, you get holes in either side of your hand. I point to an almost invisible bowstring and comment, This is made of human hair. Took me a while to figure out what it is. Black as night. Picked it up. Why, just the other day? I think. Another day, anyway. This seems an unusually well-informed group of knight companions. Knight? Companions, anyway. I don't know anything about it, but... well, it's an awful thing, isn't it?
Did you pick it up to use it yourself?
Haven't tried just yet. Might, though. Dab a hand with a bow, don't know what happened to my last one. No arrows, at any rate.
It doesn't need arrows. The singing of the jade channels the wind into hard points that travel swift as thought and cut worse than a sharp tongue. The tribe that carves them values precision among all things, and their forms are exacting. Because even though dragons do have one weakness, one soft spot somewhere always, you need to be able to hit it, preferably outside of its breath range. And that is what these bows are created for. To land a point of sharpened breath in exactly the right spot to fell a dragon.
My only immediate response is a chuckle.
I think I once met a man of this tribe. He came to court at Deepshore. He said that he longed to make a bow that could fell a dragon. He looked with envy at the cuirass that my father claimed he had acquired by slaying one. And at court he met a woman with long black hair, and I mean long black hair. She wore it in a braid which, even braided in an ornate fashion, reached the floor. The two of them became lovers, I think, traveled together, made many bows, one hair strand at a time. When they came back, she was as bald as an egg, and her hair never grew back. For this reason, there is a finite number of these bows in the world. Not every attempt was successful, and even those that were expended something very precious. I don't know anything more than that.
After a moment's silence, I turn to address Yvain. That was a poetically somber story. All the best are, I suppose. Do you... No, to be too forward, but... Could you share something from that flask? Haven't had a real drink in quite some time. Or is it menacing in some way?
Well, for a while I would have said it was causing me to dream other people's dreams, but it seems that was the encounter with a paladin, so yes, drink up.
I take you up on your offer and take 2 significant but not greedy swallows.
It feels strange in your hand because you are holding light.
Mm-hmm.
It is pompously shaped and ornate, but I don't know if you've ever held light before, but it is weightier than you might imagine, but also infinitely insubstantial.
And Art Deco to boot.
Indeed.
I look on morbidly as you take your first drink, and then sigh in relief as nothing happens.
What does it taste like when I drink from this flask? What kind of thing is in it?
It tastes like longing. When you're very thirsty and you drink water, you feel a deep satisfaction. This is like that, but what you wanted wasn't water, it was mead. There's a sweetness you wish you had that isn't there, even as it slakes your thirst. You also, I don't know if you noticed, but there is no less liquid in it now than when you took your sips. And I say, drink up. Inexhaustible. As far as I know, it's only magical property.
Other than it being a container made of light.
Sure, that, of course.
After another significant gulp, I pass it back with a satisfied...
I give a once again universal gesture to the two of you. For you, the gesture for anyone else?
I will take the proffered pompous flask of light and tip it up to the grill in my faceplate. And after a time, I will hand it back. There are no swallowing noises.
I look at you quizzically. I look at the flask as though maybe this will be the time there's finally less in it. There is not.
I also take a swig. Hand it back.
Does it taste the same for all of us?
No. It only tastes like longing if longing is what you have on the brain. If instead you're tired, then, for example, then it tastes more like a rest you're never quite able to take. It tastes like knowing for sure you'll be able to take a break and sit down soon, even though that never quite arrives. And if you have a sense of guilt, it tastes like the knowing that someday you'll be past it, even though today is not that day.
I was surprised, though not disappointed, that we've all drunk and slaked our thirst such as it is, without incident. Such was not the fate of its first bearer. You may have noticed the emblems on the outside, the subtle heraldry woven in the design. Ostentatious? Yes. Expensive? Yes. And its original bearer, some prince or king or lord of some sort, I don't know. It was his favorite drinking flask. He had it commissioned specially by one of the magisters of the court. It rarely, if ever, left his side. And he refused to drink from anything else. Such was his downfall. He had enemies in the court, you see. And one of them managed to poison his flask. But perhaps the magic of the flask means that the first and the last sip are both poisoned. We shall see, if its liquid ever gives out. I don't know anything more about that.
You know, I hadn't ever come across the flask. Didn't know about its background as deeply. But hearing that story, I realize I've heard tales of it as well. Just didn't have any physical details to go on. Now, I don't know how reliable these tales are likely to be, but, well, it's said that the flask of light from which a particularly devoted noble was wont to drink and was eventually poisoned was lost for a time only to resurface in a tavern. Don't know where it was supposed to have been, but well, it made the tavern very popular for a time. Only... And at this, I sort of glance sidelong at the flask I have drunk from, as though suspicious now. After a time, the regulars at the tavern simply stopped showing up. I suppose we may know why now. At any rate, I appreciate your sharing, but I may not drink more. Wish I had more information now, but alas, that's all I really know.
Well, I've been drinking from it for years. So far I am not poisoned. So far it never runs dry. And reliably, it always tastes like that feeling when you know you're about to get a compliment from a loved one.
And we all spend time looking in the fire.
I've long been curious about this spear that now lays across my lap. It's been with me longer than any other item. And I gesture at the spear and hold it up towards closer to the fire. The haft is relatively plain and unadorned, although seems sturdy, a bit of hardwood timber bound with simple bits of iron. The tip is the most distinct part of it. It has the appearance of obsidian or perhaps ivory, but it is napped to a razor point. I know where I got it, but I've been curious about what happened before that.
Well, I know of a place where such spears might have been made, at the very least. The material of the tip and the habit of binding the haft in iron is familiar. It is far to the north of the glades after I departed them on my way here, years and years ago. It was a small country in the foothills of a massive mountain range, and they made these spears out of the stone bones of a particular creature that wandered down from the mountains sometime. Only one ever came down at a time. The locals hypothesized that it might have been some sort of self-exile when they were ready to die, but, well, I never bought that because they fought very hard to stay alive. The villages and towns that were closest to these creatures when they came down would organize great hunts. Many, many men and women, armed often with spears like this one, but just as often with other sundry weapons. They would spend days tracking and corralling and injuring and bleeding the creatures. They were large, but strange. Too many legs, not enough fur for the climate. Strange, narrow heads with wide-set eyes. Tough, though. Often as not, the villages would lose quite a few people in the process. But they never gave up. And when they were felled, every part of them was used. Food, clothes, leather, medicines, and, of course, these weapons. Mostly spears, I think due to the shape of the bones, though that's just a guess. Don't know when it was that I passed through. It feels like it must have been a while. Maybe a long while. I remember no more.
I once met a man who spoke of these hunts. He was an old sage who worked strange magics and would bless the people who went out to hunt these strange creatures. Many of these people, of course, did not come back, blessings or no. But some did, with terrible injuries, limbs torn asunder, flesh burned. And this man did what he could to heal them. But those he could not heal, for them he would work a different magic. For he had an art which could turn these people to trees, which would then grow and flourish, albeit in not an especially human way. So that haft doesn't look like much. It's not made of a great creature from a great hunt. Rather, it's made of the hunters, those who did not entirely make it back. As to what happened to it between the making and you having it, I could not say.
I think I may be able to fill the gap between the poisoning and your flask appearing at the tavern. It was kept as a relic, well, as a numbered and catalogued entry in a secured vault full of forbidden items. I speak, of course, of the orders. Well, once secure vaults, I may have changed that security on my way out. The order is lesser now than it has been.
I toast
But
again.
the record on the flask was vague. However, it mentioned that the poison was applied not to the beverage but to the light. And as a result, passing it through a prism removed the toxicity. So the flask will not harm us. But this does mean that there is a prism out there that contains the toxin. I do not know anymore.
I'm grateful for what you've supplied about my spear and interested to know that apparently we aren't in any danger. Pass that flask back my way if you would. I could use a bit more fortitude.
I do so enthusiastically that a bit splashes out.
I don't know how much longer these bones will carry me across the earth. Perhaps you would forgive me for unburdening one of countless sorrows. You see, this spear I acquired not long after my fleeing from my home. In the night, I saw a flickering fire, burning low. I crept close in the night, saw a man sleeping, spear clutched in his hand. In the darkness, his garb reminded me of my home, and I'd feared that he was sent to hunt me down and bring me back. I slit his throat as he slept, and took the spear. And only upon searching his belongings more thoroughly did I discover a correspondence between he and his beloved. It filled in the rest of this young man's story. He had no idea I even existed. He was swept up in some war, deserted, was trying to make his way back home. You never arrived.
Who among us hasn't occasionally murdered an innocent in their sleep out of a fit of paranoia?
Generally not in their sleep. Generally under orders.
Does sleepwalking count?
I make an ambiguous gesture.
For that is indeed how I came by the flask. A man who was wearing the armor of our nation's ancient enemy approached, and I thought, that's strange, the way he shambles, the way his eyes do not seem to be fully open, but I attacked, and I killed, and the flask, pilfered perhaps from a catalogued vault of forbidden objects, was among his possessions, as was armor from this nation and my nation and 40 other nations. Pilfered at random. We knew nothing of each other, even after I killed him. And I don't think he ever awoke.
And you... Kormar, was it? Kormar, that is an interesting sword by your hip. Has it too drawn innocent blood? It seems like there's some kind of a... Can't see the blade itself, but... Is that a hint of a channel that goes down the center?
Instead, the opposite. The liquid is inside, and as it raises, flows to the hilt, and as it falls, flows to the tip. Makes it unwieldy in its speed, but once one is used to its wielding, very effective.
This is how you felt the Hardshell King, with this very blade.
It is not the traditional weapon of the Order. You may, hearing stories of them, think instead of this blade, and I hold up the mirror shine, not quite a dagger, not quite a short sword, caked in dirt, and torches and palisade shields and such. This blade, well, I liberated from the reliquary before it burned.
You know, now that I see it better, I've never seen the sword. But I know where the fluid inside came from. Or at least, I'm pretty sure I do. It's, some kind of bile. Not from a traditional dragon as we encounter them, but a relative. Many people don't know this, but sea serpents are extremely venomous. And their toxic fluids are, well, unusual in their qualities. We didn't get many of them in the breathing glades. But, well, you only need to get a couple for them to really stick around in your tails, you know? They're huge, and this particular fluid was not contained in their spines, with which they would attempt to immobilize or kill prey. But, if anything, it was more toxic. It was the concentrated fluid from some ill-identified organ within their bowels. A few adventurous people actually used to, dilute it into a liquor. Most of them survived. I don't know how you'd get it inside of a sword. That's beyond my experience with it, but you can tell from the color and how it flows what it is. I'd never mistake it for anything else. Or at least, I don't think I would. I shrug.
I think perhaps I know how you would get the venom inside. Or toxin, ichor, bile. Whatever it is, I know of only one smith that could do such a thing. He has a forge, I was once told, in the sky. Which makes no sense. Forges are things of the earth. They forge things of the earth. They rely on being anchored to the earth. But it seems there is one floating forge. Far to the south, above a frozen land, there is a piece of rock which hovers above the world. None can say how, at least none I have met, and certainly not me. When I realized that I was seeing what I was seeing, I managed to ascend by means of a seabird. And indeed there was a forge there, though the forge master seemed long departed. I saw their equipment of the like I had never seen for injecting strange potions and poultices, and yes, perhaps sea serpent fluids into metal. This, I think, is the only place where such a thing could have possibly been made. Above the world. That, however, is all I know.
So, I think I know then where your bow may have been before it came into your possession, although that last link in the chain is obviously not mine to tell. But once the tribesman and his lover, between them, carved, crafted, and strung the bows, then they were, well, then they ought to have been, if they were traditional with their tribe, disseminated among the troops of their kin. But instead, this tribesman, proud of his improvement on the art, as it were, decided to take his design into the wider world. This was not looked kindly upon, obviously. The caliber of weapon that bow represents was one of the things that kept that tribe safe, both for their having it and for other people not having it. He told me the story as we passed time at a different campfire of how his tribe pursued them, and they had to get rid of the bows in one way or another almost as quickly as they crafted them. And still they did not move swiftly enough, for one day they were caught. He lost his arm. He lost his love. So yours may be among the last of those bows that ever was made.
I regard it somberly.
Ormar, I've been reluctant to speak on the more recent history of that blade, lest it become heavier in your hands. But the tales of those that have already spoken of its more distant history have brought to mind a tale that I heard about your brethren and how they may have come by the blade. The Silvered Enclave reputedly commissioned this sword that you bear now and several other powerful weapons from the smith in the sky, saying only that they needed it to conquer a great foe. And I can see by the look on your face that you know that the foe they intended to conquer was the smith and those of his kind. When they had what they needed, they took the Skyforge by force, and all of the weapons that had been forged before their own commission. It seems like folly. They could have continued to gain more weapons, but I suppose they wanted to make sure that no other weapons as powerful as these were forged that could be wielded by warriors that they opposed. And so they slew the smith and stole what was remained of the armory and secreted away those weapons that they could bear.
Tellingly, the entry in the reliquary stated only for executions.
That's all I know about that.
After a measure of silence following that tale, during which I hold the bow in front of me, its tip resting just nearer to me than where I've set down the jar of moss between myself and the fire, I'm slowly spinning it, watching the light play off of it, and I finally speak up as though responding to something that's been said, even though no one said anything for a moment. They say, I appreciate this camaraderie around this fire. I haven't gotten much of it, and to be honest, I don't really deserve what I do get. You see, this bow, I didn't get it from some foe I felled. I didn't find it in treasure in these darkened lands. No, the last time I shared a fire was with a fellow. He was kind enough, but boring. And after he fell asleep, I started to panic. I didn't really know what I'd do next, where I could go from here, how I'd survive the next couple of days. And he didn't seem the type to use the bow. I thought about killing him in his sleep, but, well, I didn't want to. It felt wrong. He hadn't done anything to me. But I might as well have. I took everything he had, whether I needed it or not. I just, looking at the plenty he had next to the paltry supplies I had left, mementos from back home and little else, and I just became certain that it would be the difference between life and death for me. And it had been so long since I feared for my life that I justified taking things even of his that I couldn't use, like a bow with no arrows. Had I been thinking, I'd have noticed he didn't have a quiver either. Don't even have most of it anymore. It was... oh, I don't know how long ago. But, joke's on both of us, I guess, because I never go a day without thinking of him. Hoping that he's alright, but knowing that's unlikely. So, I think what I'm saying is I'll be moving on. It has genuinely been a pleasure to keep company with such knowledgeable and good-natured folks as yourselves. But,
Fascinating that you find us all good-natured.
well, suppose I'm measuring you by my yardstick. It's not safe if I stay.
We have one who's claimed to end the world. We have one who's forsworn oaths and orders. We have one who does not grow, and one who does not speak of himself.
And a fine crew we made for the evening. Perhaps, if we find ourselves back to this fire or another, we shall see one another again. In fact, I rather hope so. But, it's best if I go. For now, at least. May you all be well.
And you?
And you.
Give a formal nod. Pick up the bow, the jar, stand, and then linger for a moment.
As for me, I wonder if I might share one last brief tale. Last night I saw a fox with a wounded belly, panting, exhausted, roaming from place to place, and yet every time it laid down to rest for a moment, the wound in its stomach caused it pain, and it leapt up and moved on. Every time, sinking down, rising up, moving, restless, pained. Never really realizing that the problem wasn't with the place that it was trying to rest, but within itself. As for me, I think I'll linger by the fire as long as my food lasts. There's no point in casting out once more into the world seeking something, where I think what my fate has in store has more to do with what's here, with what follows me wherever I go, so I may as well rest my weary bones for a while and see what comes next.
I stand, and the edifice of my armor moves soundlessly despite its bulk, its heft, the structure of it rearranges into verticality. As I gather my possessions and strap them to me, I too shall head out into the dark and the darkened lands. There are at least 3 remaining reliquaries. I aim to lower that number.
For my part, I should to the rising deep, for my father still thinks he can rule the bones of the world, and I tap the flask. Perhaps the last sip will yet be his.
You may want to go find that prison.
I appreciate the tip very much.
And I give a firelit, manic grin, hefting the bow dangerously between its teeth as I clip the mask and the jar back to my belt and sort of salute informally, saying, "May we all live to meet again, then. Or not. But live well or die well. I shall try to do both." And turn and leave the circle of fire.
Live and live well, should that be your wish.
Enjoy the fire.
Dear listener, Nick is warming his hands on his camera.
Yeah.
This has been surreal enough that Nick has somewhat forgotten how radio works. It's okay.
Unless, I suppose, we have any further comments. That concludes this session of Dice Punks. Thanks for joining us. I hope our players and listeners enjoyed it as much as I did, and that you'll join us again next time. If you're hearing us now, then you probably know where to listen to this. But we can be found almost any place one can listen to podcasts. Well, it's on the wider web at dicepunks.com and on Tumblr and co-host is at dicepunks. With that, I think we're ready to say farewell. Say goodbye to the kind folks at home, players.
Thank you for listening. Mind the claws on the way out. Do not touch the edges.
Thank you for listening, folks. Keep a watch on your morals and your purses.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that next time you have the opportunity, you rest by a fire and just kind of gaze into the embers for a while. It's a wonderful, universal experience.
And as the poet once said, I don't think that any one of them believes that fire can erase their names. Thank you for tuning into this one-shot, dear listeners, and stick around to the admin stuff for a menacing message from Cormar. Campfire sounds are from soundj.com, thanks to them. Cover art and editing was done by Joanne, who has appeared on the podcast now and again. Check out her work around the internet, where she goes by AnythingSews. Site design and graphics for dicepunks.com are by Robin, who sadly wasn't able to be with us for this recording. Exiles is by Ben Klug. Links to the system and author can be found on the Punk Grimoire section of our website, dicepunks.com, eventually. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, that's reward enough on its own, but if you're so inclined, you can help us out by rating and reviewing us wherever you listen to us, telling your friends who you think would like us to give us a listen, and even by heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dicepunks. We have fun rewards available to backers, including a patron-only Discord and access to the Dice Peaks after show for episodes 1 and following. Regardless, we hope you'll tune in again, and until then, remember, subtlety is for cowards.
At a certain time in a certain place, a report arrived from a battalion commander of the Silvered Enclave to a more central posting, reporting treason and desertion and treachery within Fold, and an outpost under siege where the doors opened and the walls of the reliquary fell to explosions from within, and a great deal of contraband and inventory went missing. And please, my lord, the messenger is my son, do not kill him. His ears went back in response.